Hey everybody, it's Mike from Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing, also brought by Illumnifical, the think tank of the future, the sweet songs by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, now on Amazon, and also Heidi Tan Music. Check out our latest at HeidiTanMusic.com. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's a multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician, living in Paris for 30 plus years as an expatriate New Yorker, veteran rocker, and also an author as well. We'll talk more about that. He's released over 35 albums, performs all over Europe, US, Japan, and a prolific author of fiction. He began his career as a troubadour like Odyssey in 71, just going way back, playing guitar at 12, and also won numerous awards in Paris. And he also starred in Broken Poet in 2018. Got a little acting chops. And basically, he's the last of the rock stars, still an old timer, turning 75 and 50 years on the road. Be celebrating his amazing legacy. Live, ladies and gentlemen, plus dudes in beautiful downtown Paris. Just just having an aftermath of the Olympics and everything. The multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician, last of the rock stars, and the old timer, and the very multi-talented Elliott Murphy. Elliott, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Good evening, Mike. It's about, well, it's a little after 8 here in Paris.
Oh, wow. Okay. Time flies, I'll tell you. So, yeah. We just have all that. So you're a multi-talented singer, songwriter, and musician living in Paris for 30 plus years, expatriate New Yorker, veteran rocker, author, and also released over 35 albums, performs all over Europe, US, Japan, and also a prolific author of fiction. You began a career as a troubadour like Odyssey in 71, playing guitar at 12, and you started in Broken Poet in 2018, and you also had Aqua Show, second half of Elliott Murphy, and Lost Generation, and also Night Lights and more, and Just a Story from America, and just got spanning 50 years. And before getting all that, Elliott, tell us how you first got started. Way back machine, way back. Come
Way
on.
back
Think
machine.
time
Well,
machine, Sherman, time machine.
it's interesting you should ask that. That used to be something I always avoided doing in interviews, going back in the past. But I do find when you reach a certain age, you tend to examine your roots more than ever. And I think of those early days. When I picked up the guitar, I was 12 years old. I grew up on Long Island. I started taking guitar lessons with my mother
Mm-hmm.
because I was kind of a hyperactive kid. And I think they thought if I had a hobby, it would kind of, get channel my all that energy and I'd be able to concentrate in school. But once I picked up the guitar, I never picked up a school book again, I think. And then I was just, was really being in the right place at the right time because, I remember seeing Elvis on television in 56. I had it on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I had a special connection because my grandfather was from Tupelo, Mississippi, where
Huh.
Elvis was. So my family felt close to Elvis, although unfortunately I never met him, but I did try to get into Graceland one night when I was playing in nearby Memphis, but the guard told me Elvis was asleep. So he didn't love me. But so
Even
then I
24/7 having a lunch with a peanut butter and banana, I'll bet you.
fried peanut
Fried,
butter.
yes.
I think it was bacon, peanut butter, and banana, but
Bacon, peanut butter, and banana. That sounds interesting. I wonder if I should try it for lunch later or dinner.
tried. But and then the Beatles hit 64, I guess 63 when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that, as you probably know, took the nation out of its depression following the JFK assassination.
Mm-hmm.
Putting together bands, won the New York State Battle of the Bands in 1966 with my band, the Rapscallions. Then my father died unexpectedly in 65, and that kind of pulled the carpet out from underneath my family, sent us into free fall. I went to Europe to escape that and started writing songs, Mike. And I came back to America 72 after playing on the streets in Europe for a couple of years and loved it in Europe, which probably part of the reason I'm still there. I'm there now and I've been here for 35 years. And got a band together. It was a golden age of music in New York. It was just pre-punk, but it was the glam music, the New York Dolls. But Patti Smith was also starting a lot of, and there were a lot of places to play. And I recorded a demo with 4 of my songs, and started knocking on doors, and very quickly I got a record contract with Polydor Records. It
Oh,
just
wow, that quick. Amazing.
very quickly. I mean, I'm talking, I started playing in New York in January, and by February or March, I was signed. So that happened super fast. And then we recorded the first album, my first album, Aqua Show. And I was not a high priority though with Polydor because they had James Brown and he had his own, own imprint, I guess you call it, label there. But he was their big priority. But Aqua Show came out, and all of a sudden there was this tsunami of criticism, of positive critics. I mean, I got Rolling Stone, Mia interviewed that out. Sorry, uh, they reviewed Aqua Show along with Bruce Springsteen's second album and called us the best Dylan since 1968. So that started the whole new Bob Dylan thing. Although I don't think I really sound like Bob Dylan, and I don't think any of the new Bob Dylans actually sounded like Bob Dylan.
I don't
And I
think
don't think
nobody ever will. Nobody ever will. Trust me.
nobody ever will. I don't think we sounded like each other either. I mean, there was me,
I fell on that one. I fell big time on that.
John Prine, Loudon Wainwright, a little bit later, Tom Petty. Anyway, Aqua Show came out, and then I kind of hit the road, started playing gigs around in New York, especially. Polydor did a huge subway campaign, posters all over the New York subway saying Elliott Murphy is going to be a monster. Still have one of those on my wall here. Then I met Lou Reed. Lou kind of took an interest in my career because he was from Long Island, and we were getting a lot of comparisons. I was getting a lot of comparisons to Lou Reed, to his lyrical approach, and he brought me to RCA Records, which was supposed to be a step up. They had Elvis and the Jefferson Airplane, David Bowie, and Lou. And I did 2 albums for RCA, and then Aerosmith's manager got involved in my career, Lieber and Krebs, and they said, you got to be on Columbia. And they brought me to Columbia, and I did an album for Columbia, Just a Story from America. And you
Oh,
mentioned
wow.
those 4 albums. Those were kind of like my holy grail. I mean, those are the 4 classics that kind of put me on the map, I guess you'd say. But then after Columbia, I went into kind of the wilderness because in the late 70s, singer-songwriters became kind of a dirty word, It was like punk rock hit, new wave hit, disco hit, but not singer-songwriters. And luckily, I still had a career in Europe and Japan. I did my first tour of Japan in 1979, first tour of Europe, first show in Paris a little bit later. And I'll tell you, Mike, in between 1979 and 1989, my career totally shifted to Europe. And 89, I moved here. I moved into the same apartment I'm talking to you from today. Been here 35 years, met my French wife, Francoise. We've been together all that time. We have a son, wonderful son, Gaspar, who's also in the music business, a producer and a mixer. And so that's really my story. In the last 35 years, I've been able to publish some books. Wrote a novel, Marty May, about a kind of a guitar hero who climbed up to the top of the rock and roll mountain and fell off the other side. And that was published in French and Spanish and German, as well as an English version. I wrote my memoir, just called Just a Story from America. That was published in a couple of different languages here, as well as English. And I'm still at it. I'm still on the road. COVID slowed me down, as it did everybody for a while. I used to do 60 to 100 shows a year. And now we're getting back. I think this year I'll probably do 35 or 40 shows, and that's enough.
Hmm.
So that's it. My life and my career have been so intertwined in that it's this rock and roll river that has taken me every place I've been. It's why I live in Paris. It's how I met my wife. Uh, and that's it. So although my career didn't quite happen the way I always dreamed it was going to happen, superstardom in America, it has taken me to a pretty nice place here in Paris, and I enjoy living in Paris, and I still enjoy playing. I got a great group of faithful fans who come to my shows all over Spain and France, Italy, Belgium, everywhere over here. And that's it.
Hmm.
That's it in a big nutshell.
And it sounds like a lot. You also have some other releases as well too. You start in Broken Poet and 35 albums, and we'll talk more about books and more with the last of the rock stars. Elliott Murphy, we talking about old timer in just 1 minute, but first listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SonicWeb Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today 1 800 303 3960. That's 1 800 303 3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give a official shout out to our official sponsor, The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews. In Evil Evan endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Jordan Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and Minnows. So grab your copy today for It Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Illumnitical, the think tank of the future, bringing scientists and engineers together from all over the world, creating a method that constructs a renewable generator. This unique product operates on a closed-loop system, generating more energy internally that needs to function. The extra electricity can be used to run everything from homes, power grids, phones, and laptops. This power source is renewable, highly scalable, and more importantly, self-regenerating. More information, visit facebook.com/Illumnitical. That's ELLUMENIPTICAL today. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives us a new perspective of David through the Psalms he wrote and his time as a shepherd, where it started, and complicated yet turbulent relationship with King Saul, a story of love, betrayal, repentance, and more. Check out the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by Hayitan Music, featuring the smash hit Baby Comeback, and new music coming soon. Check it out at HayitanMusic.com. Also, check out the MikeWagnerShow.com. Take us with you on any mobile device, 40 podcast platforms, heard in 100 countries. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. If you're interested, message me at the Mike Wagner Show at gmail.com. And for more great gifts and books, Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today. And support the Mike Wagner Show and Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. You're here with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician living in Paris, and the last of the rock stars, and still an old timer. And we plan at the in the audio interview, Elliott Murphy here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before continuing with some of his music, you also started in Broken Poet in 2018, and tell us more about that.
Well, Mike, I'm really thrilled to be here because I'm finally with someone who speaks faster than me, which I think is possible. But you win the prize on that. Broken Poet is a movie I did in 2018. As you said, it was based on a short story I wrote in the 80s for a publication called Music and Sound Output, which doesn't exist anymore. And they used to publish my short stories. Short stories hardly exist anymore as well. And it's kind of a Jim Morrison alternate history. I mean, it's about a rock star who everyone thought died in Paris, but maybe he really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done 2 years before that, a Spanish director had made a documentary about my career called The Second Act of Elliott Murphy, mainly focused on my move to Europe. And another Spanish director became interested in me because he had seen that documentary, and he had also read a book of my short stories in Spanish, and that story was included in that collection. And he thought that would make a good movie. So he got the backing, he got a producer, he got some money, and we shot it here in Paris. It had an amazing cast. We had Marissa Berenson, who was in Barry Lyndon and Cabaret. We had Michael O'Keefe, who was Academy Award-winning American actor, a friend of mine. And then we had a great cameo appearance by Bruce Springsteen and Patti Scialfa.
Nice.
And the film came out, and it was supposed to have its premiere at the New York International Film Festival on March 26, 2020. So we all know what happened in March 2020. COVID hit, ba-boom, on the 13th, so that was all canceled. But it did go straight to streaming. It's on Apple TV, and I think it's on Amazon Prime as well.
Okay.
And that was my little dip into acting. You know, the only other time I had tried acting when I first came to Europe in 1971, I got a gig in a Fellini movie called
Yes.
Fellini Roma, and I was in that for about a couple of seconds. And yeah, so Broken Poet, it's still out there if you'd like to see it, folks. And I think there's some beautiful shots of Paris in there.
Hmm. That's interesting. You talked about getting into writing short stories, poems, and everything. Who are some of your favorite authors and writers growing up?
Who are mine? Well, my main author who really inspired me was F. Scott Fitzgerald and The Great Gatsby. It took place on Long Island, where I'm from. You know, I just always related to his career. He had early success, kind of like me, and then he kind of went into obscurity. And you know, he'd be amazed that The Great Gatsby continues to be the best-selling classic American novel. You know, and it's
Still
been made
number one. I've read that a few times. Still number one in my book,
still
believe it
number
or not.
one. And when he died in Hollywood, 1941, he was totally unknown. I mean, I think he went into a bookstore to buy a copy of The Great Gatsby for his secretary, and they didn't even have any.
Oh
So
no.
he's always given me faith. You got to stick to it. You got to just keep doing the work, no matter what the reaction is. You know, be true to yourself. So I loved him. I also like Jack Kerouac.
Mm-hmm.
This on the road, you know, and I think any touring musician can relate to that. Ernest Hemingway, you know, so many poets. I liked Walt Whitman, you know, the first great American poet, you know, who said, "I contain universes," and that's how I feel about myself. So, but I still read quite a bit. I tend to read more biography and history these days than I do fiction. I guess you reach a certain point in life and you just want to see how other people got through life. So I read biography, and I do try and write, you know, write every day. My latest publication was a book called Elliott Murphy's Rock Dreams. I've dreamt about rock stars almost my whole adult life, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I started writing them down, these dreams. Because, you know, if you don't write down a dream when you wake up, it's soon gone.
I've
They don't.
been there, done that, and I wish I had a notebook or notepad by my table. I keep doing that by bedstand. For some reason, I remember it, and you're right. It does go away, and you'll never recover it, and you'll realize you may have lost the key to something good. I totally understand that.
So I started writing them down and I started putting them on Facebook. And the reaction was enormous from the fans. And they all said, you got to put this together as a book. So I think there are 145 in the book that I published, Elliott Murphy's Rock Dreams. And the cast of characters is always, you know, real rock stars, movie stars, celebrities, all kinds of people like that in my imagination, you know. So maybe there'll be a volume two to that someday.
And we're looking forward as well too. I'm ready to pick up some of your stuff, and of course, continue some of your works. And we also, had Selling the Gold, Prodigal Son, and Elliott Murphy's Alive, Ricochet, and plus you also had Affairs and Murph the Surf. And tell us more about those.
Well, Affairs was my first. After I left Columbia Records and I parted ways, uh, I had toured enough in Europe that I realized there was this independent music scene in Europe, which really didn't exist so much in America, but that you could produce your albums yourself and license them to different companies around the world.
Oh wow,
So
that's in Europe.
that
Amazing.
started
I
in
didn't know
Europe
that.
because each country was different. You know, France is 60 million people, America's 300 something million. So if you didn't want a French company putting your record out in Germany because they wouldn't know how to do it there. So we did Affairs, which was a six mini LP, we called it. And I licensed it to like 6 or 7 companies in Europe. And also we put it out in America. I'll tell you a funny story. There used to be a big record store called Crazy Eddie. I don't know if that means anything to you. They ended in total scandal and disaster, but it was a big record store and they were buying a lot of Affairs. And I started the company with my brother Matthew. He was also working as the Talking Heads tour manager.
Hmm.
I was in the office and they called up and ordered more records, like 50 more records. So I said, okay, well, we'll get them right down to you. And I brought them down there myself.
Oh,
And I
wow.
walk in the record store and the manager of the store says, are you Elliott Murphy? And I said, yes. Didn't you order Elliott Murphy records? He says, yes. Do you deliver the records yourself? I said, total artistic control, from A to Z. So, and then some of those other records you mentioned, High Point, Selling the Gold, was in '96. I did a duet with Bruce Springsteen.
Hmm.
That was that was just a thrill. It was a song called Everything I Do Leads Me Back to You. And I thought Bruce would just sing on the choruses, and he's such a generous and, he's just such a great friend, great heart, just a great guy. And he sang a whole verse because it had a car metaphor, and I don't think he could resist.
Really,
Uh,
anything with cars or Bruce is always something for him.
Always something. Alive in Paris was a live show, a concert we recorded. They did in the the mayor of Paris. They did an expo about my career
Nice.
called the rock stars, and then we did a big concert following that, and that's where that album came from. So I'm trying to think of some of the other ones you mentioned, but it's got to, the hardest thing for me now is when I make a set list to do shows. I guess I've written about 500 songs. It's hard to pick which 25 you're going to do that night and remember the words.
Or just have one of those wheels like you spin and say, okay, here's a song, or you can just go to somebody in the audience, hey, what do you want to play? Try something like that. It's like, people do just different things.
Well, I think it should be in the healthcare that they give a teleprompter to every singer-songwriter over 60 because we need them. Once I get the words, once I get the first line, then I can usually remember the chorus. But and then on my last album was called Wonder, and that most of those songs were written during the COVID confinement. Here in France, we had a real confinement, 2 periods of
Oh,
about a month
wow.
where I didn't leave the house. And I thought I'd never write a song again. And my wife, Francoise, said to me, Elliot, you have to have hope. And that was the first song I wrote. I see hope in your eyes. And Wonder came out, I guess about a year and a half ago. And now I'm kind of deciding what the next one will be.
Okay, I think that's really interesting as well. And of course, just touching some of the things, Beauregard, rainy season, soul surfing, Murphy gets muddy and all that. So it's like I'm just picking some stuff out there. So it's like just pretty much covering the gamut of like 35 years and 50 years on the road and being 75 as well. It's like go play with the numbers here.
Yeah, when I began in the early 70s, oftentimes we'd be the opening act for great blues legends.
Mhm.
I opened for everybody, Albert King, Muddy Waters, James Caan. And we thought these guys were old, you know. They were probably in their 50s maximum,
Wow.
And no one would, if anyone would have told me, the people, someone like Paul McCartney would still be playing at 80 something, and Mick Jagger, look at him. So,
Oh, who knew he'd still be dancing around like that? And Keith Richards, boy, I'm looking at this guy. It's like, how does this guy still keep alive? That's what you wonder about that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
well, the thing is, Mike, I think nobody quits because we're just addicted to it. In their cases, if they quit making music, they'd just be more rich old guys sitting around riding in their Ferraris. In my case, I still need to work. I like to work, and I like to keep my band employed. But yeah, nobody quits. And as long as they keep going, as long as Mick Jagger keeps dancing around on stage, I guess I can keep doing shows as well.
And certainly did as well too. And I think we've just about covered some. But if there's some other songs you want to talk about, some of your works and or books or anything like that, you can talk about as well.
Well, I think it was very interesting for me to write my memoir, which is called Just a Story from America, because when we go through life, I'm sure everyone can relate to this. It's just like you make the best decision you can make based on the information you have. And half the time it's chaos, but you just try and move forward. But when I wrote that memoir, looking back at my life and career, it looked like a carefully planned out strategy that got me here. As I said before, my career didn't work out like I thought it would, but maybe I was meant to be the American expatriate rocker living in Paris. I think I'm the last one here. When I moved here, Johnny Thunders from the New York Dolls was here, Steve Baders from Dead Boys was here. There were a bunch, but I think I'm the last one.
You certainly are as well, too. And you certainly are an old timer. We'll talk more about that with Elliott Murphy. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Wilson of Missing. Also brought to you by Illumnifical, the think tank of the future, the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David on Amazon, and Hayatan Music. Check out the latest at hayatanmusic.com. We'll be back with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician living in Paris, Elliott Murphy, after this time up. We're back to the multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician living in Paris, expatriate, New Yorker, Elliott Murphy here on the Mike Wagner Show. And with you being an old timer, we're going to play this at the end of the audio interview. Tell us more about that song and what inspired you to write it.
That song has an interesting backstory. There is a club in Paris called the New Morning.
Mm-hmm.
English name, but it's called the New Morning. It is kind of a very legendary jazz club. People like Nina Simone, Chet Baker played here, but it has turned into just a mecca for musicians when they come here. When Prince played in Paris about 15 years ago, and he wanted to go someplace to jam after his show, he came to New Morning and played for us till 6 in the morning. I've been playing there for over 30 years, well over 30
Wow.
years. And I usually play there in March for 2 nights. It holds about 500 seats each night because it's my birthday. Around my birthday is March 16th. So I do 2 shows the closest weekend to my birthday. And the fans come from all over Europe to those shows. It's usually sold out. And it is just, an awe-inspiring experience for me. And every year they sing happy birthday to me, the audience.
Nice.
Last year when I turned 75 and they sang happy birthday, I was so moved. And I don't know, that phrase of being an old timer came to me. It's usually an old timer is the last cowboy out there on the range. And I came home, I think that night I started writing the song. And the next night I sang it. And like the first line of that song is when most of who you are walks behind you. Most of my career is probably behind me. And but it's brought me to where I am now. And we released that was my latest single. We're kind of back to where I started now. When I started listening to music in the 50s, it was a singles market, and now it's kind of come back to that. And
Just like vinyl, you're right. Just like vinyl.
just like vinyl, yeah. I've lived through all those formats. It went from vinyl to 8 tracks to cassettes to CDs to Napster to streaming.
And
I
reel to reel. Who can't forget reel to reel?
Who can't forget reel to reel? Well, I can't because I got 2 huge reel to reel players just right out of sight here. So Old Timer was really kind of a look and I said, what do I say in that song? I'm not taking down my sails. I'm still out there going.
And certainly are as well. Where can we find Old Timer and all your works at, Elliott?
Well, on Spotify, all streaming things, you can find things like you could stream Old Timer. Also, we have a website, www.elliottmurphy.com, 2 L's and 2 T's. And you can order, there's a store there, and you can order books, and you can order some CDs and a lot of stuff.
All right. Well, certainly check that out. We want everybody to purchase from there. We're here, the multi-talented Elliott Murphy with Old Timer here on the Mike Wagner Show, Last of the Rock Stars, and just a few more things. What else can we expect from you in 2024 and 2025 and beyond?
Well, I hope to get back to America to play. I started doing tours there again when my son was going to school. He went to SUNY Purchase, which is a university in Westchester in New York. And we started playing on the East Coast. I went to the West Coast one time. So, before I hang up my spurs, I want to get back to America and do another cross-country tour. It's amazing how the fans come out. One thing that's great about being at this point in my career, a lot of my fans are retired. So they can they can come to shows and travel and
Think how many times don't ask for work, just go.
Just go. Yeah. So that I also want to write a book about my life in France, which has been interesting. Uh, and aside from that, I pick up if you saw me where I'm sitting here, I'm sitting right next to my guitar, I pick it up every day. Still, still get a thrill out of playing this thing. I still believe the songs are hidden inside here. And I think that's what I'm going to keep doing until I can't do it anymore.
Right. And you're certainly doing a great job at it as well, too. And what do you consider biggest influence in your career?
I think my father, uh, I share the same name as my father. I'm actually Elliott Murphy Jr., Elliott James Murphy Jr. My father was a senior. And my father had a show called the Aqua Show. It was on the site of the 1939 World's Fair, but it was during the 50s. It was in a 6,000 seat amphitheater, outdoor theater, and he had in front of an Olympic-sized swimming pool with swimmers like Esther Williams style and
Interesting.
high dives and monkeys on logs and great music. There was Duke Ellington played there and Cab Calloway. And he really taught me a lot about show business. Told me once, he said, Elliot, well, actually he used to call me Jimmy by my middle name. He said, no matter how good the show is, if it rains, nobody comes because it was an outdoor theater. That put in my mind how big a part luck plays in career. So I think that's given me courage and tenacity to just keep going, even though sometimes it's been pretty tough. Uh, the headwind's pretty strong. The American music business kind of got disinterested in me for a long time, but I've just kept going. And I think so. He was really my great inspiration.
And certainly indeed as well. Great job of that. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, don't quit. And at the same time, try not to take yourself too seriously. And if you're young and you get in a band together, don't get into drugs. That would be my big advice.
Right. And I think that's a really good point as well, too. Here with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician, living in Paris, expatriate in New York, Elliott Murphy with Old Timer, Last of Rock Stars here on the Mike Wagner Show. Elliott, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Laugh to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase and check out your works?
Thank you, Mike.
And what's your website again?
www.elliottmurphy, two L's, two T's, and Elliott.com.
All right. We'll certainly check that out. Once again, Elliott, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up. Keep in touch. Love having you back. Wish all best. And Elliott, you definitely have a great future. Have you?
Thank you, Mike.